Hey, howdy everyone, Lost Later here, and I'm back in action, and I'm in a car now instead of where I usually am at, and I figured at the very least I could get things done here, and whatnot. You may not be able to see me very well, I'll try to make it better for y'all, but in terms of how I'm doing alright, for the most part, although some things have some things have happened, essentially, and just kind of made me thought about, just this whole entire thing and everything, and just it's one of those things where you don't really realize it until it happens. And by that I mean I've been playing the game Force of Will, and I'm sure people will know through some videos, or maybe just how I've been talking about it and whatnot. It's a really fancy card game, really wonderful and fun. I love it, if only for the fact that it has very pretty ladies and whatnot. And it's a good time. But something arose when I went to the Force of Will tournament about a week ago, and that's the people there essentially started calling me he, and just like this guy over here, and various other male pronoun names, and it kind of hurt, but at the same time it's like they didn't know what they were doing was wrong, and they didn't have any problem with it. And my friends, of course, that were there, they were like, hey, let's have a collectivist of just switching back to the male pronouns. And I know for a fact they were trying to protect me and trying to make sure that everything went well and everything. But it's just one of those things where you just go and realize, wow, the world is not... It's very binary. And that's very unfortunate how they perceive gender and whatnot. Makes things slightly harder. And what I mean by that is that now I'm faced with a dilemma of having to come out to these people, or having to just live with them calling me he and everything. And that's sucky, because it feels kind of like I'm invading on them, and it's just one of those things that I don't really want. But at the same time, if I do want to be respected for who I am specifically, I may have to start bringing that up. And it's one of those things that feels somewhat forceful, but at the same time, it's yeah, place is supposed to be a safe place. You tell everyone's happy and whatnot, and I'm definitely happy about that there. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with what's happening. It's just one of those things where it's just I finally got things set up to the way that I like it. People were calling me proper nouns and whatnot, and I go to this tournament area and just kind of oh, so we're going to switch back, because they started essentially assuming my gender. And I mean, it's kind of the suckiest thing, isn't it? Just the way that, how dare you assume my gender, is this sort of trigger warning / joke that people send and everything, when real people do face it. And it's kind of one of those anomaly things where it's just we live in a 2-gender binary society where we do have these 4 gender roles, and it's kind of one of those weird things where basically people don't really have the other 2 gender roles. They just have the original 2, but we do use them, and we do use both things that people do and whatnot. And by 4 different roles, I mean male, female, and then we also have a non-binary, and then we have for everyone, essentially. So everyone breathes, essentially. Everyone poops. Everyone can drive a car, essentially. Not that everyone can not have a car and whatnot. So it's one of those weird things where it's just kind of they're there, but they're not really there as a whole. And people fit into these sort of categories and whatnot as in terms of gender and all this and that. It's not unheard of a female mechanic now, but it used to be completely unheard of back in the 1950s. And it's just one of those weird things where it's just well, it's time changes, but it's not going to change super fast for whoever you are. And those gender roles that you know today are not going to be exactly the way that you know of them now. And while I understand that people can't exactly see past the whole entire male and female thing when it comes to the binary gender roles and whatnot, it's just one of those things where it's just as a trans person, we kind of have to pass for society. And that's kind of the biggest reason why we go through this transitioning phase, so we don't have to deal with that extra layer of, hey, by the way, don't call me he, call me a she. Or, hey, by the way, I don't like be calling a she, call me a he, because that's the way I identify. And that's kind of the biggest problem when these people just kind of make a joke about it as a sort of way of just, hey, you know, like, how dare you assume my gender? I'm an attack helicopter, lol. And it's just, no trans person gonna do that. We're actually pretty dang chill for what it is. It's just one of those things where it just kind of sucks, because it's like, if someone like tells you like, hey, like, could you please call me this instead of that, they're opening up to you. You shouldn't be kind of an ass about it when someone opens up to you. That comes with any given system and any given thing. It takes a while for people to open up, and I will tell you this much, as a trans person, I feel like saying that I'm trans to somebody is a vulnerable line here, where it's just kind of like, I'm giving you kind of a bone, please just respect my decision. But I don't really know what to say with this, because aside from that, it's really just kind of a small hang-up in the grand scheme of things, but it's still one of those things that are of to come a situation. There are going to be people that look at me differently, even more so than usual, that are like, male, female, question mark, and people out there that are just going to essentially just think that I'm a monster of some sort when I'm just trying to live my life the way I want to live it. And those kind of things just kind of happen the further and further along you go. That's because of society norms. And that's unfortunate, because for the most part, women's clothes do not have a stigma behind it. There's only a stigma behind it when a male wears it, and it's often seen as a joke or as just kind of like some sort of like political statement to a wide degree, when in reality, most people wear clothes just because they're comfortable to the said person. And like by then, it's just kind of like the damage is done and you can't do anything else about it. And it's unfortunate. And as someone that's going through their transitioning and whatnot, and just realizing more and more of these little things that pop up, there's such slight difficulties in this that just, you go like, yeah, I could do it, but it's not always like taking a stand at a diner going like, you should serve me because I'm a paying customer, not because I'm trans, and whatnot, all this and that. I don't, like, you're not going to have your big moments. You're going to have your small moments where it just kind of feels like, oh, do I tell this person that I'm not? Do I not tell this person I'm not trans? Do I tell this person I am trans? Should I start like tell them, hey, it's kind of disrespectful for me if you call me male or female, etc., yada yada. And it's such a small thing that just, it adds an extra layer that does not need to be there. And it's very unfortunate. And I understand in a certain degree that the trans people are doing it to themselves, but it's like, not really, because society is doing it to them. So it's just one of those weird things where it's just like, we have to adhere to society law. Otherwise, we have to go through extra steps just to figure out where people stand and possibly aggravate them because where we stand. And that's not something that everyone wants to go with. That's why people don't talk about politics. That's why people don't talk about religion. That's why people don't talk about any of these things, because you start distancing yourself away from somebody else when you start talking about it. And that's really unfortunate, because for the most part, you could still be friends with people that have different political views, different societal views, and everything like that for like a long time. And to some people, that could definitely be like, well, then they're not really your friends if they don't share the same political values, beliefs, things like that. But I mean, that's not everything, you know, but they could easily, it's easier to cut ties to somebody when it's newer and fresher and you haven't invested as much time in comparison to, say, 5 years from now, and I have a friend and I'm like, hey, guess what, I'm trans, and they're like, oh, like, crap, Like, I gotta actually deal with this because I've been friends with you for a long time and I've gotten to know you, in comparison to someone that just like just now started a car tournament going like, hey, you know, I'm trans, so could you not call me male? And it's kind of like how dare you? Like, I'm just trying to get to know you right now and you're just telling me to just do this automatically. And it sucks. It really sucks because it can hinder such friendships like that. So either I wait all this time just to tell these people, like, hey, you know, guess what? Surprise, surprise. Or eventually transitioning goes through and just they see me for who I am and just boom, bada bang. It's this whole answer there on the table. Or I tell them now and I kind of look like a jerk that way. And it's just like, there's no particular right answer for this. There never really has been, honestly. And it always kind of hurts because it's one of those weird sort of like, did you just assume my gender? But no one wants to go around assuming things whatsoever. And for a lot of people, the gender binary is an absolute, not wiggle room and whatnot. And that's unfortunate because it has a lot more wiggle room than people think. And I only say that because I've thought about it long and hard, and I've seen a lot of different roles, not only in the animal kingdom, but in society itself, not just American, but, you know, Spanish and British and various other countries like that. And they're not all the same. They really aren't. And people do different things, and sex is a different thing entirely. And I don't want to get into all that. I just want to say that it just kind of sucks that I have to lay myself on the line if I really want to talk to these people and continue to do this kind of stuff. But eventually, I will have to go down that line. I will have to either explain myself or tell myself or figure things out the way it is. Because I know for a lot of people, they don't have to deal with it. And when you don't think about something, you don't have to deal with something, it becomes more of an absolute to you, and it becomes harder and harder to disprove because guess what? That's what you believed in all along. And when someone goes like, hey, guess what? That's not correct. You're the jackass. You're the jerk. You're the person that essentially offended them. And it's like, I didn't mean to do that. What I meant to do was just, you know, get correct information going around. And it hurts because you're not trying to hurt them. They're not trying to hurt you. But in the end, by someone speaking up and trying to correct somebody, or someone trying to instill a belief in somebody, both sides get hurt. And there's no real way to handle it. Suffice to say, my patch is still, I've been getting like extra tired lately. I'm not sure because of sleep or whatnot, or just because the estrogen flowing in me or anything like that. They have gotten somewhat harder to keep on. I don't know why that is, and it's always in the back region. The front region, not a problem whatsoever. But I also haven't been talking to my therapist, and I need to make an appointment. And I haven't been doing that, and just all these little things are adding up, and it's kind of like, I know I need a place to vent, and it's really bad that I don't have a place to vent right now aside from YouTube. And as much as I don't mind venting here, it's not so healthy to just talk about it and let it out there as it is to talk about it to a therapist and have their point of view, have their little thing going around. And I don't mean that in the sense that people that do this do vent, or people that just go to therapists, they're better in a sense. No. It also matters what you do with yourself too. And for this particular situation, because it's such a dire thing of, hey, you know, you're going through transitioning, it's a very big deal. I need to start making those precautions again. And unfortunately, I've been lazy to do it. And admittedly, I have called once. So, I mean, it's not all on me, but I haven't followed up. I haven't seen any more calls and whatnot. I don't know what's going on. And frankly, I need to start getting things together. But suffice to say, I don't want to be a jackass. Not to anybody. I really don't. But at the same time, I don't want to be called what I'm not. So, this question of, did you just assume my gender? with the way that it's treated as this sort of joke and whatnot, and kind of makes trans people into a joke, sucks. And I guess it's comedy. I'm not going to deny that. But it's hard to get your point across, you know? We all wish society was different. We all wish that we could be slightly different in different ways. Sometimes joking about it does make you feel better. But then sometimes jokes could really hurt because it's like, I wish I wasn't a joke.